Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. We are back with the TED Show, show number 5 for today. Listen, you guys have lots of needs, and I want to make sure that the people get to know you. This project's very personal to me. It's all part of Ted's community, Real Second Chance, which you guys know are my passion projects. We have Dr. Michael Timmons on the show today. We're going to talk about aquaponics. We're going to talk about local and sustainable seafood and greens for Orlando, the impact on that. We're just super excited to have Mike's elite team of aquaponics talent. They're moving to Orlando. We're very lucky and blessed to have him. As a regular on the show, Orlando keeps getting better. You know, everything that we do for Ted's community is trying to figure out how to make it better. And it's so great to showcase this young man on the show. Welcome, Mike. How you doing?
Thanks, Ted. I like the young man part.
I try to please, Mike. I'm trying to please. All right, so tell us a little bit about you. People want history. Of course, they want to know about you, but we hear the buzzword aquaponics and sustainability like all day long. It seems to be those very popular buzzwords. So eventually, once you tell us your background, we'd love to learn more about what you're doing.
Okay, well, 71, I got a lot of stories, right? So I grew up on a farm, dairy hog farm, near Columbus, Ohio.
We are an Ohio boy.
Yeah, Ohio boy. So I went to Ohio State University, which became the Ohio State University.
You can't leave the out on that.
I just went to Ohio State University. So, yeah.
What did you get your degree in?
So I got my degree in agricultural engineering.
Why? Tell me. Like, I'm fascinated by this. That's not something that you normally see people choose. So where did you get the passion to want that to be your vocation and your focus?
Well, actually, it's from my grandfather. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and he had multiple dairy farms that fed the milk to a dairy processing plant, and then he and my father distributed milk all around central Ohio. And I was a third of 4 boys. Grew up on the farm, and I worked with my grandfather. And my grandfather was always wanted me to go into agriculture. And so one day I was about 12. He puts me in his car, which he uses as a truck. He drives me back to, he had 4 test plots of corn, field corn. They were different fertilizer treatments. And you could actually see the difference in growth. And he says, now look, Mike, see the difference? See the difference here in the growth rates? Now get interested in agriculture. And I'm going like, oh, I'm pretty interested in agriculture. I mean, like, I've always been interested in like growing things. I love to grow things. I love food. And then I was always pretty good in math and science. So math and science and growing things and feeding people and growing up on a farm and agricultural engineering. It turns out every state has a land grant university, and every land grant university typically will have a Department of Agricultural Engineering, which is, what is agricultural engineering? Well,
Liz, tell us. I'm still here, but I want people to see you.
Yeah, so agricultural engineering, applied physics to problems associated with, quote, production agriculture. That's what I did. So I graduated from Ohio State. Then I went to, that was right when the aerospace industry shut down. So there was thousands and thousands and thousands of extra engineers. So I started applying, and I got like 72 rejection letters. So I ended up, I saw an advertisement at the University of Hawaii in Manoa and Honolulu, and it said half-time research assistant. I went, half-time in Hawaii, that's probably a pretty good idea.
God, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, so I went down there, and I turned out like that was actually in graduate school. So I ended up in graduate school and not really knowing it. And so then I got a master's degree there, met my wife on the tennis court.
Oh, that's a great
Yes, she's
story.
Japanese, so she's kind of guided my life to some degree. The last 47 years, right? So she
God
says
bless you. 47 years.
47 years, right?
Amazing.
3 children, 4 grandchildren. They all got jobs. They don't live with
That's a
me.
blessing.
Yeah, they all got jobs.
So how
So
did you get into, so there's agricultural, and then how did you make the shift to aquaponics? And do us a favor, for those of us who don't know, define aquaponics, because it's that buzzword I mentioned before, and I think a lot of people think they know, but they don't.
yeah, so aquaponics, almost almost everyone thinks they know what it is, don't know what it is. Okay, so ponics is a key word. So ponics is growing things in water. Ponics and hydroponics is growing ponically things with water. Soilless culture. That's hydroponics. Hydroponics is grows the plants with inorganic fertilizers in a very, very controlled, tightly controlled system. pH, macro, micronutrients, 17 of those at specific concentration values. And it works out really well because you have separated the plant from what you might call a dirty, get it? A dirty
Yes.
environment. Okay.
I get it, and I like it. Very good.
I just came up with that. That's what they use that very good. Okay. So my mentor and my PhD advisor at Cornell University, I got my PhD at Cornell. His name is Lou Albright, and he was in hydroponics. Him and a guy named Bob Langens in the Department of Integrated Plant Science created the Controlled Environment Agriculture Program, which became worldwide famous, which is really hydroponics, right? And so, but I focused over onto recirculating aquaculture systems, which is growing fish, and the water goes around in a circle like a swimming pool, and you can produce a lot of fish in a really small area. So we use maybe 1/5000th of the water to produce fish that conventional fish production would use in 1% of the land area. Hydroponics, soilless culture of plants, uses about 90% less water than conventional vegetable production, and again, about 90% less land area. But both of these are very technical and very intense.
Yes.
And the one thing for 30 years that Dr. Albright and I would agree on is like recirculating aquaculture, RAS. There's a book on it that I wrote called The Yellow Book.
Oh, you did? You wrote a book? Say it isn't so. Tell us what the book is.
Yeah. So that's another story, but there's like 16,000 of these books out around the world.
Whew.
So this is the book. And so this is RAS, which is fish culture, which is really technical. And then you got hydroponics. And so the one thing we'd agree on is if you got one really complicated system, RAS, you got another really complicated system, which is hydroponics. The one thing you don't want to do is combine them.
So guess what you did? No?
Combine them. Okay. But it's really funny, right? Because I teach short courses. How you do this, I've been doing this for a long time. Yellow book, that's the textbook. And so if like 20 years ago, I'd be teaching, somewhere in Africa or China or Brazil or Mexico or somewhere in the United States, or at the Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute in Fort Pierce. And I get this guy, and the guy said, "Hey, Dr. Timmons, what about aquaponics? It's great." I'm like, quiet. So this went on for about 10 years. And I said, quiet down. Do you have any data? No, but it's really great. So finally, I got so tired of hearing this. I got so tired of it. I went, okay, we will run controlled research like scientists do, where you have a control and you have the treatment, and then you compare them and you do and analyze the data statistically. So guess what? We ran these controlled experiments.
Did you fall in love with aquaponics at that moment?
Yeah, because the data under controlled research conditions said there is no difference in the productivity between hydroponics, which is really, really complicated and uses inorganic fertilizers, and aquaponics, where you do nothing. You just take the fish water and you give it to the plants. They go, we are so happy.
Explain that. All right, so dumb it down for us. Give us the basics, because aquaponics obviously involves fish, and it also involves being able to, and you can describe it better, but I'll tell you my impression. You have a community, and we'll use our local community. There's a lot of them where there is not any real sustainable food growth. There isn't any kind of produce available. You have to go outside of the area, which is not conducive to the people who live in the area. And so aquaponics, to me, you've got the fish, you're creating sustainable greens, you're obviously creating sustainable seafood. But how does that actually work? You just throw fish in a tank and you hope for the best. It's much more scientific than that.
No, you got it perfectly. That's the shocking thing. You can teach aquaponics stuff, but to embellish in what you said a little bit, okay? You feed the fish. You got that, right? You feed the fish.
Yes, feed the fish.
Assimilate what nutrients they want, and they grow, and then you harvest them. And so they, in round numbers, they capture about half of the nutrients you feed them. So the other nutrients are discharged. In conventional fish production and RAS, those nutrients are discharged into the environment. Not good. Okay.
No, that's not good.
But in aquaponics, instead of discharging these nutrients and wastewaters into the environment, you actually send them over to the plants, and the plants go, whoa, we're so happy, because these are organic nutrients, and our mother said we're supposed to eat organic food. So,
Yes,
so the little tomato says to the big tomato, I'm so happy because I'm getting organic nutrients, and I taste so good. So you can I know, it's so amazing. So
it's so good. I love it. I think
you could actually design the plant system to perfectly match the fish system, so that there's 100% capture of all the macro and micronutrients, including carbon dioxide. Because when you breathe, okay, Ted, breathe. Okay, you just breathed out a whole bunch of carbon dioxide.
I did. That's right.
Where did that carbon dioxide come from?
God, I hope my body.
Yeah, but where did that come from? What you ate. So about 80 or 90% of what you eat is carbon, organic carbon. Eventually, that turns into carbon dioxide.
I did not know that. See, this is why Dr. Michael Timmons is telling us this stuff on the show today. So tell me, I want to know. People had a lot of questions, right? Because we know that we're coming into the Orlando community. We have in my opinion, we have a solution to some of the challenges that certain communities have. So when you come into a community, when aquaponics comes in, how does that actually directly affect the community itself? How does it impact the community? I bring an aquaponics. We bring the sustainable aquaponics system to, let's say, the Paramore district. I'll use that as an example because that's right to my left. How does that actually really, truly, positively impact them, and how does that work?
Well, I might get kind of emotional on this because I'm actually very, very serious on this regard. The successful societies for the millennials have always been based upon agriculture. And typically, like 90% of your population be involved in production agriculture. Then you go to industrialization, and then you get less and less people involved in agriculture. And agriculture gets more commercial and more mechanical, more large scale, to where you end up with maybe 3 or 4% of the people producing all the food for the country. Okay? Well, that's where we are today. And so we have displaced our whole population from producing food and fiber. And so how it relates now to, say, downtown Orlando or the Paramore district, is that we start to actually engage the local people in producing their own food. And so that can be done very intensely. It can involve the whole community. And so they start to grow their own food. And so they're not bringing it in from Mexico or from California because it's produced locally and consumed locally. And then that becomes a whole new, it actually is a whole new revolution. So it was, so it's almost like we have found the wheel, the wheel, because we're actually flipping society now back to local and sustainable food production. I mean, we have 2 billion. We had to find some way to feed 2 billion more people in the next 30 or so years. So I tell you this, right? When people don't have food to eat, they get really angry.
Most definitely.
So this is the way that we can produce food locally and sustainably and responsibly and build it from the community base and go up. And the other nice thing, Ted, is that the jobs that are created are a whole range. Okay, it's from the, call it the least demanding level, which would apply to challenge people, for example. That gives them meaningful employment opportunity, so that they start to develop the self-respect, and I'm contributing to my community, and I'm doing something very useful. And then the computer scientists with 3 PhD degrees, because we actually monitor and control our systems from the cloud, so that we see what's happening and we can be proactive in responding to a need that the animals or the plants have before they actually express it in terms of a detriment to their growth. So it's just like your children, right? You go, how do you feel? How do you feel? Right? We know what our children, how they should be acting, so we can be proactive. Yes. So that's what we can do. So we have the highest level to the most rudimentary level. People of all ages, abilities can participate in a meaningful way.
Let me ask you to really dumb it down as we start to wind down, because I think that when you think aquaponics, you obviously think of water, you think of fish, but I think people don't understand how that in and of itself helps contribute to the growing of sustainable seafood and greens. So I had a couple people go, so is there a garden? I know the answers to these, but I love that people are interested enough to want to dumb it down and to give them the basics. So how does that work? The fish are in a tank. Let's put it that way.
Here's my fish. They're in a tank. They live in water. That water is where the macro and micronutrients collect. So we take that water in the fish system and we send it over here to my plant system. And those we can either tie those together and couple them, or we can decouple them. So we just send water from here with all the nutrients, send it over here to our plant production system, which is actually got the Ohio State.
The Ohio State.
And that's where the plants go. And they grow in a soilless culture. The soilless culture could be tanks of water, or it could be essentially gutters like we have on the eaves and the edge of our roofs. They can grow like that. They can be on a bench which has a lot of, say, pea gravel or something, where you throw nutrients on it and it drains. A variety of ways you do that. So that kind of depends upon the type of crop it is, whether it's a fruiting crop that needs more structure, or your lettuces and leafy greens can just float. That's the easiest way to do it.
I think people don't understand that. So I love the fact that you explained that, because I think people understand the thought process of having that controlled, contained system that is very productive. But I think they did not understand how it goes from fish to sustainable greens. And I love that you described that. It's such an easy thought process, but it's definitely something that's rooted in science. So you have to kind of know what's going on, which.
So here's a little bit of science. In soil culture, conventional agriculture, okay, all the nutrients are still transported into the roots by water. That's the
Got it.
transport mechanism. So that's why if the soil's too dry, the plants die because they don't have any nutrients. And then another interesting thing, Ted, is what also drives the nutrients into the plant roots is that the plant is up here breathing water and they expel it, called evapotranspiration. And so then they got to replace that water they lost, so they suck some more in. And when they suck it in, there's proactive mechanisms by which the plant sucks up micronutrients and enzymes and everything else that they need. It's amazing.
It's actually really, truly amazing. I love it. I'm happy and thrilled and honored to be part of this. So, Dr. Timmons, Mike, tell us the best way for people to reach out, to find out more about you, to find out more about the projects, to find out more about aquaponics. I have a couple of websites going on down there. Tell us how we can reach you.
Yeah, well, email is good. I have a couple websites that Ted is going to be sharing. One is Professor T. I'm a professor, and my name is Timmons. ProfessorT.Fish. I sell my seafood there. It's the best in the world. My motto is this: if I wouldn't feed it to my grandchildren, I won't sell it to you. Okay? And then the other one I really like is my Cornell website, which I have my teaching course on that anyone in the world can take, and that's www.ecornell.com/fish. And
I will put that on there. I did not put that on there this time, but I will share it.
Yeah.
All right, you're a joy, man. See, we did it. It took us a little bit, but that was amazing. I think it's so important that people understand the impact that we are about to make on the food delivery system here and the food opportunity system here in Orlando and really all over. And I just got to give you huge kudos and appreciation for all the amazing work you've done, Mike. I think it's just awesome. It's fascinating, it's new, it's cutting edge, and it's sustainable, which is what we all are working toward, and I absolutely love it.
Well, it's an honor to be part of this community, and just for the record, I did move here in January a year ago. Wow. I had it with the North.
I don't blame you, my friend. All right, Dr. Michael B. Timmons, I'll put up the Cornell site. I did not put that up. You can go to APJ.Farm or ProfessorT.Fish, and I'll share that other link too. Mike, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show and for all you do for our world. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, guys, we'll be back. Reach out to Mike. You know it. When you have an expert like this who is this accessible and this open, you should reach out. All of you have questions. You had a ton beforehand. Let's engage and get involved in our community. And you can always go to tedscommunity.com and also find all the links to everything Mike's doing. Hello back there. How are you?
Hi.
Posted. Hi. We like saying hi. We're all good with that. All right. See you guys later. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you soon. Bye-bye.